Good morning, friends.
Good morning, y'all. Just trying to see if y'all where I'm at. Um, are
I
we?
love going to your page
What's that?
because I don't see it ever unless I go there specifically. The
Yeah,
algorithm does not want us hanging out with each other.
algorithm. Fuck those algorithms. I'm the algorithm interrupt. Boom. Facebook. Now, how you like me now? How you like me now? So we got some juicy shit, y'all. I'm on one, so I'm on fire. Uh, what's up, my brother, Mr. Johnson? You're gonna love this conversation. Me and you were talking about some deep ass shit when I was in Florida. We're about to throw down a little bit more. Let's take it up a couple more notches. You know, uh, my sister called me and she said her girlfriend, a friend, I don't know if it's a family member, uh, has some issues about Samuel. What's his name?
Kevin Samuels. I was like, Samuel L. Jackson?
Yeah, that's it. No, not at all. Uh, Kevin Samuels, and appreciate you too, Mr. Johnson. Uh, so when my girl Lila called me with this, and she was talking about and I saw because I didn't recognize. I don't pay attention too much to things in the media and stuff, and so I wasn't paying attention to this brother who passed. And then she mentioned it, and I went back and I looked at his shit, and I was like, and
Yeah.
for me, that's the gut reaction I have with it. I was like, and everybody's known from my statement. I'm about to say this. Stevie Wonder can see that dude is a wounded bird. His mama didn't change his diaper. She didn't give him a hug or give him a bowl of cereal. Something happened along the way to the
Damn.
stadium.
She didn't even change his diaper.
Yeah.
Yeah. I read something this morning that was really delicious, and it was someone saying that the men who flocked to his teachings
Mhm.
were also unheard, unseen, unprotected,
Birds of
unloved.
the same feather flock together, baby. It's always
And
been that way.
I knew that, but hearing the way that he put it helped it land in my system a little bit differently. Because I was looking at it like, what the hell's wrong with y'all?
Yeah, I mean, if somebody comes on and starts spinning rhetoric that you
Hmm.
disagree with, first thing I'm gonna do, and that's what I think me and Mr. Johnson was talking about. We spoke last a week ago. The first thing I'm thinking about is, oh, that's how that cat rolls. Next,
Right. It's the people who are activated by it that brought the conversation
yeah,
forward. But the activation is either so he said the tweet that I saw this morning, the guy said, these men were unprotected, unheard, unseen, and they attacked women who were unprotected, unheard, unseen.
yeah,
And because I don't have a problem with the teachings of that little corner of the internet. There's a whole little corner of the internet. Kevin was
yeah,
not the only one. He might have been the
no,
loudest little bird on the
yeah,
tree, but he wasn't the only bird on the tree.
yeah,
Um, but the women who were bothered were also unseen, unheard, unprotected. And I didn't see that until I read that tweet this morning.
yeah. I, I, and that's the piece about it because sometimes when I look at that, I was like, well, if and I say this a lot, and what are you unwilling to be aware of
Mm,
when you get in a relationship with somebody like that you can't tell from your own woundedness that you're in a scenario that's not safe, comfortable, fun, relaxing.
Ooh, I can answer that question.
You
I
know,
haven't done that at all. Um, have you seen that statue running around the internet? These it's giant outline of two adults, and they're sitting back to back, kind of like this, that their backs are to each other,
yeah, yeah,
and inside of them are two little kids going like this to each other.
yeah. I've seen that.
It's that.
Yeah,
It's the adult in me understands this is some bullshit.
Hmm.
But the wounded little kid in me and the wounded little kid in him are like, oh, but we could love each other. And honestly, when we're doing our work, those are the best relationships. And they can be the most powerful and strongest relationships if we're both doing our work. But
Yeah,
when we're not both doing our work and we're both like trying to get the other person to be our healing or trying to get the other person to change so that we can feel better,
hmm,
then we just end up in that dynamic where we're fighting against each other. And I think that that is what is happening in these little corners of the internet
hmm.
where these men are tearing down these women and these women are running away complaining about it instead of pulling themselves out of that conversation altogether. I'm not about to
Exactly.
argue with you about my self-worth.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's, I guess that's my point, and that's where as a 58-year-old man, not a boy, but man, I'm like, oh, why am I gonna give that any time and energy? I mean, I talk to my girls all the time, my daughters, I talk to them all the time. It's like if you see a fool, so let me back up. It's all about proving that I have to be right. We got this motherfucking notion that we got to be right. So I'm gonna get with you. I'm right. So that means you what? Wrong.
Wrong.
Instead of maybe looking at it from a different perspective. Oh wow, that's how that dude or that sister rolls. I'm bouncing. I don't like that flavor. I like grape. I'm not
Yeah.
much into orange. So give me grape.
Yeah. Here's the other component to it though. So my last relationship, y'all, ended as a colossal train wreck. Like food all over the train tracks. It was a mess, right? And when I looked back, because one of my favorite things to do is look at the patterns.
Hmm.
And also, I'm going to go back and comb through every little nook, cranny, and crevice and nuanced detail of this situation because what we're not about to do is go through this shit again
Yeah.
with the next person. Like,
Hmm.
not even with him again, because maybe not with that person. I've actually not given someone a second chance. Um,
Well, strike you out in the other game.
Goodbye. It's not really one strike. You get all your strikes inside the relationship. By the time I'm done, I'm usually fucking
That
done.
that is deep. That's true.
So, as I was coming back through the last 5 years of that relationship and looking at where did I abandon, betray, and neglect myself so that I can course correct for the future, um,
Deep.
damn, I lost that train of thought.
So you was like course correct for the future.
Yeah,
What?
no, there was something before. Oh, so the reason, because I saw all of the things. I told you this. I told John this. Y'all don't know this because y'all weren't on the phone with us. Um, I saw all of the red flags, all of the things that ended up making this relationship turn into toxic soup. I
Mhm.
saw all of it. And I ignored all of it. I ignored all of it because I was getting something that I needed. I was getting something that I wasn't giving to myself. It was coming from this other human. And I made that other human the source of that thing instead of being like, oh, he gives me this thing. I should give that thing to myself because I
Wow.
didn't know I needed it
Wow.
until he showed up and was like, hey, you feel really good when your parenting is affirmed. You
Mhm.
feel really good when you hear that someone is proud of you. So maybe you should start looking at and being proud of yourself
Yeah.
versus, oh my gosh, this person loves me so much. I'm just
Yeah.
gonna ignore
Yeah.
all of this shit over
And
here.
I want to say, I think
Kevin
Mr.
Samuels.
Johnson said in the
Oh.
comments, he said, it's the American social construct of man versus woman. It
Mm-hmm.
is. And what happens is even deeper in that construct, how many things do we make source or more important than us? From day one, we're always trained to look outside of ourselves instead of going to ourselves. How much of this, like you could say, could be eliminated if you be like, look, I don't really need you for that. This is what I need you for, and I'm not going to give you a power over me. How many people, like Mr. Johnson, just like racism? Yeah, but there's all those constructs. And see, here's the construct. It's not. I don't. I used to sit back and want to blame somebody else for some of these constructs. I'm beginning to realize it's just because I'm not willing to choose something, and then I'm ready to scream victimhood because I'm not ready. Why do people do certain things? Most things, I was like, I don't understand. And because here's the piece about it. This other piece. Sometimes I think I'm beginning to think as I get older. Uh, yeah, he says it's the matrix, psychologically. Yeah, yeah, but it's always when I wake up in the morning. When I was driving over here this morning, coming across the bridge from Washington to Oregon, I started clearing all of my relationships with you, Tori, my kids. And the reason I do that because I want to start afresh and be aware of everything that might be pulling on me. Not that some things I'm like my children, if they pull on me, I just want to have the awareness so I can at least choose what to do with it. I think there's so many people, like you said, again, relationship. Oh my God, he's so cute. His sex is so good. Her sex is so good. Oh, I'm going to forget about. No.
A little deeper than that, but yeah.
I mean, no. Choose something different for yourself.
Yeah.
What would it take for you? Like how many people, if you're really being I can't remember your boy's name, Kevin
Kevin
Samuels.
Samuels.
Kevin Samuels. Then the question I would ask you is the dude dead. What are you being so alarmed by? What can you choose? What can you choose? So I'm not saying no wrongness. I'm like, what what else can you choose now?
Part of the
And
conversation was the people celebrating. I was like, wow, we are in a state, aren't we?
yeah, I mean, and even to that point, I'm gonna celebrate somebody. I mean, what a waste of time. What a waste of time.
I feel like I need to host a happy hour for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, they need a
Like you need
happy
to
hour. They
come
need a
if you
happy
have
day.
strong
They don't need an
feelings
hour. They
about
need
Kevin.
24 of them bitches. 24 happy hours. That's what they need. They don't need one. They need 24.
They probably need a session. They probably
Yeah,
need like a year-long
yeah.
program with
I mean,
me.
and it's and that's the thing that when like I kept on going back over this, brother. I was like, how are we programmed to spend time on issues like this of proving? You can't
Yeah.
prove anybody. You can't prove any. If somebody has a mindset or choice that they're making, you can't
Yeah.
prove them to change it. They're gonna just argue with you. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna that picture you have. You're gonna see two people sitting with their backs to each other, and then the little kid and they gonna have their backs to because the proof is like I'm taking my toy home now. I don't need to play with your ass.
My way home. Yeah. That was one of the gifts of my last relationship was that hey Kathy.
Hey, Kathy.
One of the gifts of my last relationship was that I could see when he was doing the
Hmm.
proving thing.
Yeah.
And he is such an energy and a dynamic for me that I'm like, I'm not about to argue with you because it's Thursday. Like, no.
Yes.
Welcome, Sharon. Sharon is the catalyst for this
Hey,
conversation.
Sharon. Thanks a lot for this. Appreciate
Post
it.
on her page that sent me there. But it is very interesting. So, a glorious example of this was we were arguing over the definition of the word asset.
Mhm.
If you look in
Who
the
was?
circles, he and I,
Okay.
if you look in the circle of the Warren Buffetts of the world, they will
Hmm.
tell you that an asset is anything that will make you money, anything that
Right.
produces money. So
Yes.
your car, once you drive it off the lot, depreciates 30%. It is no longer an asset,
No.
right? The dictionary looks at an asset as literally anything that you own that you could sell for cash.
Yeah.
So he was like, my car is an asset, homeboy. His car is an asset now because it actually produces money for him.
Yeah.
He his car made him 10 grand last month.
Yeah.
It is officially an asset.
Yeah.
But at the time we were having that conversation, it was just sitting in the garage getting
Yeah.
gas put in it,
Yeah.
costing him more money than it was
Yeah.
actually making him.
Hey, Christine.
So we're in that conversation. I looked at him and I was like, you just need to be right, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah,
that could be your definition of asset. Do you see my point? No,
yeah.
I don't see your point, and I don't need to see your point. I don't need to agree with your definition for you to be right. You could be right and I can be right, and we can just move on.
And here's the piece about it that this is something that here's a little tickler for people. You know, if you find yourself being engaged by buffoonery like Kevin Samuels, and I'm just calling it how I saw it because when I saw it, was like when I saw it, there was like I'm a man. I know those other men. I feel nothing like that now. I know everybody has their own experiences, but like I said before, they diaper didn't get changed. Their mama didn't give them a kiss. They might not got a big hug, and I understand that because some of my work that I've done, I get that. But to look at somebody as source to blame,
All fucking melanated women.
huh? Looking for somebody else to blame gets you nowhere. Because once again, the individual that you might want to address with this is not going to hear it. So, what other choice can you have? And this is the thing about I talk about intimacy a lot of times. And what about being intimate with self? If I'm
Mm,
intimate with myself, and I'm not talking about a
mm,
sexual thing, yeah, some people don't bounce back when they receive trauma from their parents. He didn't bounce back. Yeah, yeah. But that's not my fault. That's not my problem.
yeah. Go
Go
back
get
to
some
intimacy
therapy.
with self. We'll get back to Sharon's comment, but go
So
back
what
to
I'm saying is
intimacy
that
with
I'm not
self.
being coarse or harsh when I say this, but if you if you want to go out and strike at somebody else, like I listened to something about like women think that they can get over and do like this. Well, if
Yeah.
there are someone who think that, but when you paint everybody like that, you're a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
Anytime you say all of anybody, you're the idiot.
Yeah. I've been in that conversation. It's very interesting on like a one-to-one level. Some of the people that followed him on like a one-to-one level, you can have that conversation
Yes.
because you can point to the exceptions and they can be like, "Oh, okay." And then you can point to what I did was I pointed to the woundedness in the people
Mhm.
who have that point of view. Because
Yes.
there's another point of view running around that little corner of the internet that men like Future, the rapper. I think he's a rapper. Is he a
I don't know
rapper?
I don't know. Mr. Goodwill, Mr. Johnson, help me out. Is he a rapper?
Sierra's
I'm old
ex,
school.
Sierra's ex, her first son's father,
Well, I think he is a rapper. Yeah, I think you're right.
um, versus Russell Wilson, her current husband.
Yes.
So the men that are feeling unseen, unheard, unprotected, unwanted are all looking at Future like he's the prize.
Yeah.
And Russell, who has a whole ass family, Future has 17 kids that
Yeah.
he ain't taken care of. But they're looking at him like, oh, no, what I see is that you're jealous. You're jealous
But
because he can have sex with anybody that he wants to. Your values are different values than women.
so I'm gonna go out and say, but it gets distorted because of a lot of times I think it gets distorted because where am I getting my information from? I'm gonna pick on Mr. Johnson. Me and Mr. Johnson have done some work together, and a lot of the brothers get distorted information, so they make distorted choices, and they never really. I mean, and here's the piece. Now, I'm not making an excuse for that. What I'm
I'm
saying is,
listening.
because I have. So if I get the wrong information, like I live on the West Coast, if I leave Portland and start driving west to come visit you in Illinois, I'm gonna have to have a boat, a plane, or something because eventually I'm gonna run into the fucking Pacific Ocean and start turning my shit around and driving
I'm going
another
to spit tea all
15,000.
over the screen.
Yeah, but my point of what I'm saying is I think that people get information and they make choices from the information. It's the circle of where you get your information from. And if you don't see, like for me, I, and I shared this, I was a blessed, lucky guy. My mom and dad have been married for 60 years. My dad was a huge influence of what it looks like to be a man, not the man, but a man. And so my brother and I, certain things we didn't have. We weren't like we never called our wives bitches and shit. We never did that because my dad never did that shit. I took care of all my children, but my dad took care of my brother and I. I watch my dad get up every morning, go to work. I watch my dad pray. I watch my dad help people in the community. So what happens is if a lot of these brothers sometimes don't get this information, and so the sisters are living in the same fucked up scenario as these guys are, and so what happens is they get bad information. So when you see somebody like a Russell Wilson, you're like, what? That's too far of a reach. But this low hanging fruit is what I'm used to because this is the information I get. And until you decide that you want to make another choice about how you want to live.
That's so interesting. I always think about myself because I grew up in the hood as well. I grew up with aunts and uncles. I did not see a healthy marriage. My grandmother gave
Mhm.
birth to 13 children. I grew up with 11, 10, because they just started dying. 11, 10, 9 aunts and uncles, and a mom who never married, right?
Mhm.
If you look across my relationship history, you would see me breaking that pattern slowly over time.
Choice.
But what you don't see is, I guess what it looks like is like, oh, my first marriage was 15 years. That relationship was 15 years. The marriage itself was, we won't talk about the math. Because I didn't finalize the divorce till 6 years after we finally split. Divorce math.
Yeah.
But if you look at it from the outside looking in, it looks like failure.
Yeah.
However, I was loved better in each of those relationships than I was the relationship before.
Mhm.
I have talked mad shit about not going back. Like, I never understood why people reconciled with people who were like trash buckets when they were in relationship with them. But what I've never gotten that I'm looking at the face of now is somebody actually doing their work. Somebody actually putting in the work to be a different person. I've always been the one putting in the work.
Yeah.
So I can look at my last relationship, like I can look at all three of the four of the relationships as a failure,
Mhm.
or I can look at them as proof that I'm doing something different than what my family did. I don't have an example, but I have values. That's where I was going with this.
Mhm.
They might not have an example of what it's like. My first husband had a father. His father was in the house. His dad didn't cheat on his mom. That Negro cheated on me from start to finish.
But okay, wait. So here's the piece about it. Just because somebody living in a house don't mean that they're contributing. That motherfucker can be sleep at the wheel. It's like if you fall asleep at the wheel, you driving, you're gonna crash.
So my ex is looking for love in all the wrong vaginas. Is what that boils down to. Like,
Yeah.
his mom was abusive. They don't call it abuse. If you're black, they call it discipline. His mom was abusive.
Yeah.
And his form of getting over that is looking for love in all the wrong vaginas.
Well, I mean, because but yes, and
Mm-hmm.
that's also him doing he's the effect of something not working in the home. So the issue with it, it might not be like it could be the mom.
But I'm
And
speaking to the information piece that you said. Like they don't have the information. They
yeah,
have different. They either have different values or their unhealed trauma is so big
yeah,
that it's running the show and not them.
exactly.
That's where I was going with that.
Exactly that. I agree with that 100%. What happens is that then what happens, you're on what I like to call AI, artificial
Mm-hmm.
intelligence running your relationship
Mm-hmm.
or your being because you're
Mm-hmm.
not in choice. And it comes back, I think Kathy said this, it's the ultimate
Choice is
superpower
a
is choice.
superpower.
It
Yeah.
is. And most people
Yeah.
don't realize it's a superpower because
Oh,
once you
I
make
think we
a
need to
choice,
talk about that next.
yeah, once you make that your fucking superpower, you are not stuck. Regardless,
Yeah.
you get to jump out of it when you want. And this is the piece that like I'm in this office and I work with my clients, the kids, and I'm always emphasizing to them, you have a choice.
Yeah.
And and check this out, when you don't act, you're making a choice. Choice is
Amen.
always happening.
Amen.
You can either be aware of the choice or you can
Your
be
Monday
sensitive
morning
to it.
sermon with Lila and John.
Yeah, yeah. This is exciting.
Can you tell I grew up in a
Nicoletta,
black
good morning,
church?
sister. How you doing,
Amen.
Nicoletta? Yeah. Yeah. So what happens is that I think that a lot of people just lose sight. Like Mr. Kevin Samuels, what if he wasn't a big deal? And I would challenge people, and this is I'm learning how to do this myself. I don't have this down 100%. That when you see things that make you go, ugh, ask yourself, what in this am I trying to prove that if I wasn't trying to prove, I can just let this shit go? Because I don't even know that motherfucker. So if I don't know you, why am I being? It's like a friend of mine told me emotions is not real. And the first time I heard that shit, I was like, ah, you're tripping. And he said, check this out. Next time you watch a motherfucking movie and you start crying or you start laughing, you get excited, those are light rays and sound hitting the screen on your brain. That's not really happening. That's not fucking happening. That's a projection. But you get emotionally connect to it. So how many of your emotions are you connecting to that are not real? And you're just tripping because you're not asking a question about how can I be more present with this? And then once I become present, I can bounce the hell out of this shit and choose something different. Because who wants to be abused or traumatized by somebody else's rhetoric? Why do you sit in that if you
Okay.
have a choice?
All the things. We're going to continue this conversation next week. John's going to turn to a pumpkin here in a
In a minute,
second.
yes. I gotta get back. I gotta get back to the kiddos, y'all.
Um, what do you got coming up?
Let's see. I'm finishing up my money class. Uh, I have a class about money and being money and parenting. You go to my website. I got a bunch of go to my website www.beingjohnasher.com. Tomorrow night I'll be on my back doing my cooking show, Orgasmic Conscious Cooking at 6:30 p.m. Pacific time. What you got going, sister?
Ask me about Feast so I can finish setting it up so y'all can come. Feast is an ongoing experience to end the feast or famine pattern in your life. And we're probably going to have John come guest facilitate, even though he's going to be in the program.
Yes, I'll just get better than this. And my sister Denise Sharandi says I'm very protective of my little sisters. I get that 100%. But this is one of the things I finally realized at 50. I realized having a conversation with people. What if I never make Kevin the source, but I talk about being aware and making choices to people so that when that shows up, my daughters, I have 2 daughters, and the conversation, I have very graphic conversations with my daughter, no holds barred. So when they hear the rhetoric of bullshit that some brothers like to spit to them, my youngest daughter,
Hardcore.
saw it. Now, when I started talking, she started saying it. She said, "You know something? That fool," because I gave her the tools to be able to be like, "Oh, bullshit."
Y'all.
And so, because
Y'all.
here's the piece: no protection. You can't protect nobody. I finally realized,
Yeah.
like, I hate to say that. I'm a probation officer. I try to protect people, and kids still get killed here in Portland.
Word.
But
That's
I'm turning into a
He's turning
pumpkin.
into a pumpkin. We gotta go. Y'all, if you grew up without
Okay,
a John in your life, then grab God, what is his name? Steve Harvey's Act Like a Lady, Think Like a Man. Read it for yourself.
yeah.
Don't take everything in there at face value and think you need
Yeah.
to implement everything. But
And
grab that
maybe we
book.
do a class on this.
Yeah.
Ooh, I'm feeling a class coming out of this.
I feel it too.
Yeah. Ooh.
Yeah.
Let
We'll
us know what
talk
y'all
more
think.
about it.
Okay.
We'll talk more about it. Bye,
Deuces,
everybody.
y'all. Bye.